Okay, so this is my evaluation of my magazine. Okay, so here we go. From a typical hip-hop or indie magazine, you would usually expect them to have like a large image on the front cover and a large masthead at the top of the magazine. Indie magazine. And here we've got Vibe magazine. Okay, so the layout of these magazines is very typical across a wide variety of all the music magazines that we see. They always have sort of basic structure to their magazine. This is usually a very simple layout with the main image and the masthead and very little writing around the side. However, they don't leave much white space, as seen here. The design that a typical magazine would use would be very similar throughout all their magazines. So like from the first issue to say, I don't know, the 90th issue, it would be very similar across all of them, and it shows continuity between the various issues of magazines. So here's my magazine, the front cover that I've created, and I've kept a very simple layout, very similar to the style of indie magazine, with a sort of cross between Vibe and the indie magazine. Here we go, we got a comparison between my magazine and indie magazine. And just there is Vibe magazine. Because I've chosen this particular style here, it's allowed me to have very simple ideas and designs, and I've used this idea throughout the rest of my magazine. So we've got the main image there and the double page spread. You can see the very similar aspects of the basic structure of how they've been designed in Photoshop, and I've done this to try and keep again continuity throughout the magazine, to keep it very, very professional. And this is just in comparison to indie magazine, and it's just I've used a lot of their ideas in my magazine to sort of build my way forward. This is what you typically expect from a magazine, to have similar sort of layout and design throughout each individual page of their magazine, especially the ones that involve a very similar article, and this is what I've done here. We've got the front cover, contents page, and we've got the double page spread there. There we go, so you can see the continuity between all three different pages of my magazine. The basic idea that I had for my magazine was to have a main image and a very large masthead, and this would draw the attention of the reader to the main image and the masthead, which I wanted to be the main focus of the magazine. As shown here, I have continued through with this idea of my magazine and had very small text on the outside, and this is to simply draw the reader's attention right from the beginning as soon as they pick up the magazine. This adheres very closely to the traditional layout of a music magazine, and because I've used a very close-up image on the front cover of the magazine, I've been able to use more mid-shots and long shots throughout the rest of the article, throughout the rest of the pages that involve this particular article. The final way I kept a very conventional style for my magazine is by creating a very particular masthead. This is very similar to the magazines such as Indie, and it is very, very simple. Yet it is big and bold and attracts the attention of the reader, and this was my main purpose for the masthead of my magazine. The genre we chose for our magazine from the very beginning was the indie hip-hop scene. We chose this because it attracts more people of our own age, between ages 16 and say 21. This has allowed us to connect more with the audience, and we were able to understand what they wanted within their magazine. We try to address the type of gigs that they would go to. For example, they would go to very small venues in suburban areas of like big cities. From this, we were able to specify what we needed in our magazine. As shown here, we chose an artist for the cover of our magazine, which is a very young artist that would link very nicely to our ideas of what we have for our magazine, drawing the attention of our young male audience. The particular places where we would expect to sell our magazine would be in very small local shops in suburban areas of the big cities. In particular, we like to sell our magazines within the music stores. For example, big shops such as HMVs, to small vinyl record shops and shops that sell CDs. This would allow us to interact more closely with our target audience. In terms of distribution, we would like to distribute them very independently and steer clear of the big companies. By doing this, we'd be able to add our own essence to what we want to do in terms of distribution. For example, we give away freebies or hand them out to the public in order to raise awareness for the magazine. Because we want to specify in very independent music and labels, we want to go down the same sort of road that they do in terms of marketing and distribution. For example, with marketing, we would rely on word of mouth very strongly. This is because it is very easy and free to use, and doesn't cost anything at all for people to spread the word about our magazine. An easy way to do this would be to sell them at the gigs of the artists that we're promoting in our magazine. People would then buy our magazine at the gigs and let people know in and around that area, and then people would come to us to buy the magazine. The images that we've chosen also typically represent this genre of people that we are aiming at our magazine. For example, our artist is wearing very iconic clothing of the younger generation. On top of this, we attempted to use social networking to promote our magazine and distribute that way. For example, you can see our Twitter here has allowed us to approach our audience in a different manner, and we have been able to ask questions for them over the social networking sites and ask what they needed and what they wanted from a magazine, and it's also allowed us to market and distribute our magazine freely. From the start of creating this magazine, I have used many different technologies and have discovered many different techniques in how to do things using modern technology. For example, the main key feature what we've been using is Photoshop, and I've learned a considerable amount from when I started off. I've shown the progression of myself in using Photoshop from my preliminary magazine, which is there, to my current front cover, which is posted on my blog. Both of these are on my blog. Also, the technology I've used are digital camera, computers, iMovie, still images, videos, all sorts to create a final image of the different magazines that we've created. Looking back to the preliminary task, I believe I have improved a considerable amount, and I think this is shown in my work, most definitely. I think my Photoshop skill has increased dramatically, and I've been able to use different types of techniques such as the stamp tool and the all different types of tools to cover up like spots and blemishes on the skin, which increase the quality of the image and the quality of the overall look of the magazine. Also, the content of the magazine has definitely improved, as from when I did my preliminary task, I almost rushed it and didn't know what I was putting in, so I just put in the first thing that came to my head. However, with my final front cover, I looked into great detail and actually looked into real articles on the actual websites to have ideas of what I would be putting in my magazine. For example, I used Mac Miller's award, the Man of Next Year, awarded by Complex magazine, as a subtitle cell line in my magazine. This shows I've researched what I need to know before putting onto my magazine rather than looking at it unknowingly.